the transcendental attribute of coming under the control of his devotees, as stated in the Brahma Samhita. By his one plenary portion as Paramatma, the Lord controls innumerable universes with all their demigods. Yet he agrees to be controlled by a devotee. In the Upanishads, it is said that the Supreme Personality of Godhead can run with more speed than the mind. But here we see that although Krishna wanted to avoid being arrested by his mother, he was finally defeated, and Mother Yashoda captured him. Krishna is served by hundreds and thousands of goddesses of fortune. Nevertheless, he steals butter like one who is poverty-stricken. Yamaraj, the controller of all living entities, fears the order of Krishna. Yet Krishna is afraid of his mother's stick. These contradictions cannot be understood by one who is not a devotee. But a devotee can understand how powerful is unalloyed devotional service to Krishna. It is so powerful that Krishna can be controlled by an unalloyed devotee. This priyat vishyata does not mean that he is under the control of the servant, rather he is under the control of the servant's pure love. In Bhagavad Gita it is said that Krishna became the chariot driver of Arjuna, and Arjuna ordered him, "My dear Krishna, you have agreed to be my charioteer and to execute my orders. Place my chariot between the two armies of soldiers." Krishna immediately executed this order, and therefore one may argue that Krishna was also not independent, always fully independent when he becomes subordinate to his devotees. This is the display of Ananda Chinmaya Rasa, the humour of transcendental qualities that increases his transcendental pleasure. Everyone worships Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore he sometimes desires to be controlled by someone else. Such a controller can be no one else but a pure devotee. Interesting, huh? So there was a couple of points in this purport. So the main thing is, O Maharaj Parikshit, this entire universe with its great exalted demigods like Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma and Lord Indra is under the control of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yet the Supreme Lord has one transcendental attribute. He comes under the control of his devotees. This was now exhibited by Krishna in this pastime. So what are we doing? What's the process we're following? We're following devotional service in practice. So, we could argue, are we even devotees? We could argue that. We're practicing to be devotees. Really, that's what we're doing. Because what's the qualification of a devotee? It says here, Krishna comes under their control. That's quite a qualification. Devotee says devotee. It says devotee. So what a devotee is that's the point. What is a devotee? Someone who practices unalloyed devotional service. And you're a devotee when Krishna comes under your control. So obviously, you may say, well, obviously that's a pure devotee, but from this purport, you're a devotee when Krishna comes under your control. And as we were reading yesterday, Mother showed us she was actually making poetry about Krishna's activities in her mind. So when she was churning the butter, the yogurt into butter, she was actually composing poetry about Krishna in her mind. Who's on that level? It's interesting. And the reason why she was composing poetry about Krishna was so she wouldn't forget him. It was easy. When we compose poetry about things, the poetry sticks in our mind.
Fisherman's friend.
That's it, Krishna's friend.
Fisherman's friend.
The fisherman's friend, that's right. Yeah. That's right, yeah. And you never forget it. It's true. Hare Krishna. So again, this pastime of Krishna is very difficult to understand, but devotees can understand it. It is therefore said, I'm avoiding the Sanskrit here, the Lord displays the control of his devotees because he like. So why does he like coming under the control of his devotees? It's been mentioned. Why does he like that? Because he's a supreme controller, and everyone's doing what he says since time immemorial, and so he probably gets a bit wow, you know. So you know, when he comes under control of some, he finds it pleasurable. You know what I mean? Because everyone's, you know, like, so imagine you're the king and everyone's bowing down to you. All you know, fancy you were a king all your life, right? And all you ever know is people bowing down to you. And you know, you just, you know, it's like you might want something else to happen. You know? Do you know what I mean? So yeah. And I remember Janananda Swami. I was in Vrindavan with Janananda Swami, and everyone. I was in the Krishna Balaram temple. We were just outside in the courtyard, and everyone who was coming to the court, they were bowing down to him. And he turned around to me and he said, "You see what I have to put up with?" That's what he said. because that's all people were doing. You know what I mean? So you know, they weren't coming up and saying, "Hello, how are you? And how's it going?" Meeting friends and things like that. You know, meeting of friends. It was just one saying. I mean, it's good. It's good. You should always pay obeisances, and it's you know, you get a lot of purification by doing it. But from his point of view, he was just saying he was indicating that was all he was experiencing was people bowing down to him, whereas you know, he wanted to, like, you know, some normal interactions, you know, sort of thing. Anyway, that's what it appeared to me. Seemed like that to me. All the universes with all their demigods. So just like a little portion of his a plenary portion of his expansion, he controls innumerable universes with, and that they're just posts. He's not a post; he's a person. You know what I mean? See how powerful Krishna is. Yet he agrees to be controlled by a devotee. In the Upanishads, it is said that the Supreme Personality of Godhead can run with more speed than the mind. So we all know. You know, you can run faster than the wind, or you know, faster than mind. You know, very quick. But it could easily outrun. I mean, like that. But in that pastime, in that section of the pastime, he allowed himself to be caught, and then he was displaying his opulences. Shakti was bound. And he wouldn't allow Mother Yashoda to he led a band. We have to be totally sold out to Krishna. You know, totally, you know, service. You know, not the offensive stage to an anartha and a viti. Like offensive stage is, you know, we all begin on the offensive stage. We don't really know what devotional service is. We're not really committed, and then when we start making a commitment, we start realizing that this is the best thing for me, the soul, to not going. And when you start practicing something in these temples, so why would temples? I mentioned this before, but it's good to mention again. In the 8th canto with Gajendra, so there's a purport there where Prabhupada mentions that temples were established when great sages and saints when it was detected by great sage devotees were disrespecting one another. That's why temples were established. It's amazing, isn't it? Amazing. So if we're in temples and we get disrespected, don't be surprised. So anyway, so the devotional service is very powerful. If we engage in it, and we have to come to the mode of goodness, which means we establish a certain practice and we maintain it. And by just maintaining it day in, day out, and then you automatically invoke mode of goodness, because mode of goodness means maintenance. That's the most difficult thing to do. We can start up a practice, right, and it's easy to start it up, and we can easily finish it, easily stop it, but it's more difficult to maintain it, and then you get the full effects when you maintain it. Even you can see that because we're doing this celery diet. You know, I don't bring this in too much. But I read around and I see people pack it in after a certain, I can only do a couple of weeks or whatever, and they pack it in and then they dismiss it. But the point is you continue it, and then you'll get all the effects. Mode of goodness means poison in the beginning, nectar at the end. Was it a herb? It's not considered to be a vegetable. It's a herb or a fruit. It's not a fruit. It's a herb. And in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, "Of herbs, I'm the healing herb," which is quite interesting. So anyway, Hare Krishna. Anyway, back to the pastimes. Sorry about that. Hare Krishna. Nonetheless, so Krishna is served by hundreds and thousands of goddesses of fortune, and nonetheless he steals butter like one who is poverty-stricken. So all these are contradictions. Yamaraj, the controller of all living entities, fears the order of Krishna, yet Krishna is afraid of his mother's stick. These contradictions can be understood by one who is not a devotee. They cannot be understood by one who is not a devotee. But a devotee can understand how powerful is an unalloyed devotional service to Krishna. Now it states, what does it state? It doesn't state how powerful is the devotee. It's not stating that. It's stating how powerful is unalloyed devotional service to Krishna. So that's the point. So we're sadhana bhaktas, we're approaching devotional service, yet it's so powerful it can control Krishna. So my point is, even if we make a little bit of advancement, the effects will be there. And like I said the other day with Nectar of Instruction, devotional service is so powerful it will forcibly drag the practitioner to perfection. Forcibly drag. And it's maybe lifetime after lifetime it will take, but in the context of eternity, it's nothing. But we can actually do it in one lifetime. So you just have to be determined. And these events, when Maya gets us and we get into these external events of the material world, thinking, it's whatever. One, you get bored of them. Two, they're temporary. And when they're gone, they're gone. And they never actually increase in opulence. They only go down. Do you know what I mean? When you experience something in the material world, repetition, by repetition, the so-called enjoyment decreases and decreases and decreases. Then it just goes. You get totally bored of it. But on the spiritual platform, when you're trying to serve, the pleasure only increases. And you never get bored of it, because we've been doing the same things, day in, day out for the last, how many years, how many people in the room. We've been doing it for so many, decades and things like that. But you don't get bored of it. And if someone does get bored of it, then it's just a sign he's not doing it right, or they're not doing it right. So that was one of the things when I came to devotional service after 2 years, I realised, I haven't been bored for 2 years. Because I used to get really bored in material life, really bored. And then 20 years later, or whatever, you're still not bored? Gosh, I think it's... because basically spiritual life isn't boring. It's not mundane, Mundane things are boring, they're impersonal, isn't it? And the interesting thing about, Krishna consciousness, everything is a personality. The stick... Mother showed stick is a personality. The milk that boiled over is a personality. There's nothing of it. In the material world, because in the material world we throw a few things together and make something that works, and then we put a name to it, and we try and put it's a sort of personality. Have you got this? Have you got the new whatever car it is? Have you got such and such? Like that guy in Little Kid, the 14-year-old in Govardhan. He was in a village in Govardhan. He ran up to me, and the first thing he said is, "How much is an iPhone X?" That was the first thing he ever said. And I said, "Oh, that's a deep question." But the point was, to him, it's a personality. It's something you must have. You must have. It's a relationship you must have. It's impersonal. Obviously, it's just a machine. That's all it is. Collection of this, that, and the other. That's all it is. It won't solve the problem of loneliness or that want of a personal relationship. Here, what's happening? Krishna is having interaction with his devotee. And it's blissful for everyone involved. It's blissful for Krishna, it's blissful for the devotee, for the Yashoda, and it's blissful for the people who are looking in. And obviously Prabhupada is translating this because it's a pure via medium. And so it's blissful for us because it's presented by a pure devotee. And you can actually develop a relationship with Prabhupada just by reading these books regularly. So as Prabhupada says, if you want to know me, read my books. That's what he said. And then Tamal Krishna Maharaj, I didn't realise this when I was in Govardhan. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he built the place in Govardhan for devotees to come and read Prabhupada's books in a spiritual environment. Just you go there just to read the book, and that's what I ended up doing it. And I was reading for about 8 hours a day, and it was like blissful. It was really, really important, really, really nice because the modes are less. So you're in a spiritual environment. You look out, and you're thinking of Krishna. You know what I mean? So really important experience. You don't have to run around India doing this, doing that. One place and read the books. Anyway, Hare Krishna, and that was the first time I'd made notes as well. And you can do lots of things with Prabhupada's books. You can make little notes. You can make poetry. Like poetry comes from the because it's so eloquent. You know, Prabhupada's so eloquent, even though it's probably his third language or something. That it really strikes you, and you just and then these poetic sort of gems I just write down. You know. Anyway. So Krishna, he's under the control of the servant's pure love. Krishna can be controlled by an unalloyed devotee. This does not mean that he's under the control of the servant. Rather, he is under the control of the servant's pure love. Now, isn't that interesting? He's not under the control of the servant, but the control of the servant's pure love. That's a very deep thing. It's a very deep thing. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said that Krishna became the chariot driver of Arjuna. Arjuna ordered him, "My dear Krishna, you have agreed to be my charioteer and to execute my orders. Place my chariot between the two armies of soldiers. Krishna immediately executed the order, and therefore one may argue that Krishna is not independent. But this is one's ignorance. Krishna, we've read this before, so why is Krishna not, they were arguing, Krishna's not independent because he did what Arjuna wanted him to do. So what was Prabhupada's reply? Why is Krishna independent? Why was he independent? It's quite easy. It's up to Krishna what he wants to do. Exactly. If he wants to do what Arjuna tells him to do, he'll do it. And if he doesn't want to, he won't. That's it. Because he's independent. It was his choice. It wasn't that he was subservient and therefore less, under the power of Arjuna. It was Krishna's choice. It was his choice. Because he revealed the universal form and all this, and that was, and Arjuna, he didn't want to see it. He didn't want to see it. He was, he was frightened. Not actually frightened, but he was he wanted to see the two-armed form. Then Krishna sort of did the two-armed form, but it was all Krishna's choice. And, so Krishna is always fully independent. When he becomes subordinate to his devotee, this is a display of the humour of transcendental qualities that increases his transcendental pleasure. So again, that's the point as well, is that he gets pleasure from it, as we mentioned before. Everyone worships Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore he sometimes desires to be controlled by someone else. Such a controller can be no one else but, as Pat said earlier on, pure devotee. So pure devotees and unalloyed devotees. But basically, if you can control Krishna, you're practicing unalloyed devotional service, and also you're a pure devotee. So quite simple. So Right. Okay. Neither Lord Brahma nor Lord Shiva, nor even the goddess of fortune, who is always the better half of the Supreme Lord, can obtain from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the deliverer from the material world, such mercy as received by Mother Yashoda. And this is another amazing thing, isn't it, about devotional service? We can achieve things that even Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva and the goddess of fortune can't get, which is the mercy of Krishna, you know. That's what's available. And if it sinks in and stays in, then our devotional life will totally change. Wouldn't it? If we knew what was available, we could really appreciate, then we'd be like, you know, going for it, you know. This is a comparative study between Mother Yashoda and other devotees of Buddha stated in Chaitanya Charitamrita. The only Supreme Master is Krishna, and all others are his servants. Krishna has the transcendental quality of becoming subordinate to his servant. Now, although everyone is servant, and although Krishna has the quality of becoming subordinate to his servant, the position of Mother Yashoda is the greatest. Lord Brahma is a servant to Krishna, and he is Adi Kavi, the original creator of this universe. Nonetheless, even he could not obtain such mercy as Mother Yashoda. As for Lord Shiva, he is the topmost Vaishnava. What to speak of Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva? The goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, is the Lord's constant companion in service, since she always associates with his body. But even she could not get such mercy. Therefore, Maharaj Parikshit was surprised, thinking, what did Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj do in their previous lives by which they got such a great opportunity? The opportunity to be the affectionate father and mother of Krishna. Yeah. This is the last time. But what did they do to deserve that position?
Devotional service. I don't know exactly. I just read it in Krishna book.
Yeah. I think I remember.
No offense, wasn't it?
Do you know?
Sorry?
Do you know?
I can't remember now. A bit tired.
Okay, don't worry. All I know is I was about to say. Vasudeva and Devaki, they performed austerities, right? And then in this verse there are three negative pronouncements. Now, anything is uttered three times. To do it indicates great stress on the fact. In these verses we find na labriere, na labriere, na labriere. Yet Mother Yashoda is in the supermost exalted position, subordinate to her. It's not really saying it. The word mukti dat is also significant. There are different types of liberation, such as suyoja, salokya, and sarupya, and shasti, and samipya. But vimukti means special merit. When after liberation one is situated on the platform of prema bhakti, one is said to have achieved vimukta, special mukti. And this is the answer, special mukti. Therefore the word na is mentioned. That exalted platform of prema is described by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as prema, pum arto mahan. And Mother Yashoda naturally acts in such an exalted position in loving affairs. She is therefore a Nityasiddha devotee an expansion of Krishna's Ladini potency. His potency to enjoy transcendental bliss through expansions who are special devotees. Ananda Chinmaya, Rasa Prati Pabhavati Bin. Such devotees are not sadhana siddhas. So the answer is
Nothing. She needs to do nothing. She is already.
you got it. Yeah, you got it. She's Nityasiddha. She's got prem, and she never misuses her independence. And that's the difference between Nitya Baddhas and Nitya Siddhas, and we're Nitya Baddhas. We misused our independence, and we fell. And then she's a Nitya Siddha. She never misuses her independence. So she's always in Krishna prem, and that was why. Hare Krishna. So, and he quit Canto, and Prabhupada, he wasn't sure whether we put all the philosophies there. So if you just read the Krishna book every night, you'll get to know the philosophy, and also you get a lot of purification. And like I said, you'll get spiritual experiences, but you got to do it every night. If you read it every night, and it's quite exciting, and it exercises the brain, and and the more people are here, because everyone's here, and so we can have that discussion. And then you find things out. And I remember once there was something that was really bugging me. I had a dream, and something happened in this dream, and it was bugging me for ages, And then we're reading together, and we're reading Nectar of Devotion together. And in Nectar of Devotion, all of a sudden we read this part: Krishna can appear as a woman. Oh, what? right. And then it clicked, and then right. I won't go into the details. But what I'm saying is, we're in devotional service. We're in ignorance if we're not reading Prabhupada's books regularly, because what happens is that whatever you're going through, it will be revealed. Whatever ignorance you're in will be revealed. It'll be uncovered just by reading Prabhupada's books. As simple as that, And so we're silly if we don't do it, and it exercises the brain. And what's the alternative? Get lost in Maya. You know what I mean? So, and the real pleasure. It's a real pleasure to read. And the more you read, the better your japa will become. And conversely, the more you get into chanting japa and harinam, the better your reading will come. You develop a taste for reading, and the more you read, the more you develop a taste for chanting. Because they're both sides, so they complement each other. So all you have to do is find out by doing it, or find out by not doing it. Because if you don't do it, you lose your taste for it. Your japa will go down, and you lose your taste for reading. And that can happen. But to get it back, you just put effort into one or the other, and then both will come up. Anyway, Hare Krishna. Okay.
Also, there is somewhere I forgot where even Yashoda and Nanda, they were doing actually some kind of Drona and Droni, some name I don't remember which. So it also like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or Krishna, they all also appear and they accept the spiritual master. They behave in a way to instruct the human.
Conditioned souls.
So also these Nitya Siddhas, they do the same actually.
Yeah.
Who come up with Krishna, they do the same just to instruct us that we would not think in our mind, I'm also natural. Somehow they're always doing like this. There are few exceptions, but these exceptions are like Ramananda Roy.
Yeah.
And then Krishnadas Kaviraj says, I should not be speaking about this.
Don't imitate.
I should not be speaking, but still I will speak about Ramananda Roy because he was so exalted. And then if he speaks about it, then someone will think, oh yeah, I can do it also.
Yeah.
So that's why they usually also follow some kind of penances, some kind of, and it appears that they become blessed by this, but actually they have their original position eternally, like they don't need to do it. Yeah. Amazing, isn't it? It's like all for us,
Yeah.
They do all this kind of stuff just for us.
Yeah. Because they want us back in the spiritual world more than we want to go there, Simple as that, Oh wow, we really lost it. But anyway, we're getting back there. We're getting back. We're getting back. Simple as that, really. And I remember asking this question in Murli Manohar in South Street. I said, in the Shishastikam, Lord Chaitanya is saying, all I want is causeless devotional service, lifetime after lifetime. And then Srila Prabhupada and others are saying, go back in one lifetime. So what you do? I said, and he said the best thing to do is, just say to Krishna, if you want me back in the spiritual world, that's good. Or if you want me to, stay in the material world and preach, whichever. And that was his answer. That was his answer, But obviously, you got to really want to. Once you realise what the material world's all about, you think to myself, am I qualified to come back and preach? Would I really want to do that? You got to be really, and then you just hand it over to Krishna, whatever you want, because you got to be really special to come back, because it's such a nasty place. It's just nasty. That's all I can say, Hare Krishna. And you see that on every level, from the humans to the animals, It's just nasty. And things that happen, like, oh my God, Hare Krishna. I'll just say, there's one thing I remember, I saw these Komodo dragons, right? And when they bite you, they've got bacteria in their mouths. And what it does, they'll bite you, and then it'll get your bloodstream, and they'll paralyze you. And you'll fall down. So you run off from the reptile, it's bitten you. You run off from it, and you run away. And then gradually you'll slow down and you'll fall and you'll be paralyzed. And then the reptile will just be coming up after you, and he'll get you and he'll eat you alive and rip your bones to bits, and you're still alive, but you're paralyzed and you can't cry out or anything. That's nasty. Hare Krishna. I'm just saying, because people think, oh, the animal life, that's so, no pressure. I like to be a bird. I like to be this, whatever, It's not like that. There's always some misery, That's it. So you don't really want to hang around in the material world. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Jai. Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki. Oh.